how to find low price stocks. And I'm just going to give you some easy tips, especially for new investors. Now, I've been trading now for a while, and I've had so many experiences. I've experiences with brokers, I've been on the trading floor, been scammed, I've been through the mill. So I'm fully experienced. And when I say even through the mill, I'm talking about psychological mills, you know, the mental issues mills, because trading is not just a setup where you're just gonna buy a stock and it's just gonna be smooth sailing. And of course, the whole notion of buy and hold is dead. Buying a stock can say in the next 20 years. Of course, you've got Apple is always coming out with new innovative, innovation, new ideas. You know, they it's like they're thinking the next generation. You know, and that's the concept for some stocks. But then you've got like Thomas Cook, they're dead and gone. Just imagine if someone had bought them and decided I'm going to keep them. There's so many different companies who have been busted over the many years. Now, you've got to almost like try to find good quality stocks. So you've got to really have an idea. Now, when I look at the banking sector right now and how much money they're giving people as interest on their money, it's ridiculous. Now, I also look and see people are looking at getting mortgages, and it's ridiculous the cost of a property right now. I remember the first property I bought was like £44,000. And look, that same property now you're looking at over 200K. Now, me then and me now, I wouldn't have been able to afford that over 200K. You know, that would be so difficult. I'm gonna look at my niece and she's gonna be paying a mortgage of over for a mortgage, over 40-year mortgage. Now, that's ridiculous. Of course, you wanted to reduce your monthly payment, but a 40-year mortgage, you're going to literally pay the bank at least two times what you borrow from them. Of course, if you want a place, then you're going to have to get your place. Um, you know, but you've got to find other means of investing because that's what life's about. I remember when I first bought some stocks. I bought some stocks when I was living in Jamaica, and I've always wanted to invest, and I bought these stocks. I bought the Gleaner Company and some other companies, and they actually went up. I didn't even know what I was doing, but I know you buy. Now, some people might say I'm only going to buy it, and that's fair. But then what you want to do, you want to buy at a fair price. Now, let's look at the chart now. We've got here this Barclays. And what we're looking for is cheap and expensive. Now, you remember in 2009, 2008, we had a collapse, right? And Lehman Brothers and the foolishness, and the market collapses. And Barclays went from £3 something all the way down to £1 17. It was meme in the market during this time. Now, if someone had bought in 2009 and say, I'm going to buy Barclays because Barclays is a reputable company, then in the year 2020, that person money would have been down 62 pence. So, and then look, finally Barclays is up. So then you would have waited, looking from 25, nearly 16 years. You'll have been waiting for this thing to go back up to where you got it from. So what we need to do and what we need to understand is how we go about finding right the right stocks to buy, and how we go about buying these stocks. Because ultimately, if we can't find or have a method of finding the right stocks at the best price, then we're going to be in jeopardy because we could potentially purchase a stock that's overpriced, and that's what I'm going to be showing you now. So what I've got on the multi time frame on the MetaTrader 5, right? And this is what I'm doing. I'm just putting on the what we call demand zones, right? And supply zones. I like using the color yellow, and I like the thickness to be a bit thick, okay? So that's my, so first thing, I'm just looking at the ebb and flow. So for the market, it starts up to there, move all the way down to here before moving back up to this point. And when it move up to this point, right, there it is there, then it moves all the way down to here, okay, to this point here. And then it move all the way back. But remember, these zones are not like exact zones, okay? Of course, let me put one there. And then what it did was it moved all the way back. Look left. If you look left, you can see it went there before. Went there in that what 2011. Went back there in 2016. Then went back up. Yeah. Then after that went all the way down to the year ago again. That's 2019 when we, I think, COVID-19 then, when we had that big huge collapse. Okay. So went up to this zone, look left, you can see how looking left all the time it can exchange clues. And even went further because COVID-19 was really bad, and the pandemic and a lot of the bounce back loans and all of these things went, all of a sudden it went back up to where it was some years ago. So new zone. So this is what we've got. So this is what we call demand zone, supply zone, demand zone, supply zone, demand zone, supply zone, demand zone, supply zone, demand zone, supply zone. Before, it's very consistent, however, at this point. So good price, cheap, cheap, and of course, these people were in this trade. What could have happened here is they get stopped out because they put their stop loss here. And because a lot of people had their stop loss here from previous and previous low, they got stopped out, and then the market just run up to this point where it was in the past. So remember, this what we would have called like a, say, supply zone becomes now a, this demand zone now become, this demand zone here would now become a supply zone or a resistance level where the market comes up to there, goes back, comes back to there, goes back. But look at what happened. Came back here and it just broke above. Of course, we had this flash crash here when Donald Trump came in and he decided that he was going to put levy on people, in terms of trade war and how much he's going to charge levy and all of that. So then the market collapses. Came back down to this zone again. Can you see the low there of this candle? And then just rocket back up. And this is what they're doing. Now, at the moment, I would say Barclays stock is very expensive. So I probably wouldn't buy them. So, however, I wouldn't trade it on the monthly time frame. I would then go on to my weekly time frame, and this is where I would be. Now, of course, we can see that the stochastic is overbought. There's some sort of volume in the market. We can see that all indicators are lying, but we can see that there's multiple lines on this chart, which is very confusing as it is. So for me, I think right now it's overpriced. So if anything, for me, I would be looking for some sort of pullback to some point, and the potential pullback I'll be looking at is possible to this point. This is where because if you look left there, if you look left, that's where the market potentially could pull back. So I'm looking for it to pull back to about there. And then once it pull back there, then that's where I'm looking to buy if I'm gonna buy at all. Now, of course, this is educational. This is not me telling you to buy Barclays. It's just for investment purposes. God bless. Peace out. Happy trading.